Okay, that should work. Whoa, a little bit hot. How's that? Can you hear me okay? All right, there we go. Wonderful. Thank you for joining today. We've got an interesting stream going on. We're going to be editing the next video, which is pretty exciting. Man, it's been like a while since I've had to edit a video. Like it's, last video came out last month. And when I was opening up Premiere to like put all of the files into it, I was like really confused because it kept giving me this error and I was like, what the heck is going on? And it turned out that I was trying to put the files into After Effects instead of Premiere. So just a brain fart day. So anyway, yeah, you're seeing the new office for the first time actually. This is gonna be where I'm doing my work. It's still a little bit empty. So I'm waiting for some furniture to arrive so I can fill it in. I gotta put more art on the wall. You can see I've got that piece right there. I got that one. But this room used to be maroon colored, like maroon brown. So somebody decided that was a really good idea to paint this an extremely dark color. And it wasn't good, I'll tell you that much. It always felt like it was the evening whenever you came in here. So thanks, Andrew. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a nice place. It's my house, I love it. But yeah, ended up changing the colors, did yellow, which is much lighter. It's still, like, the walls are very light, so we gotta get some art on there. I got a rug that should be coming in that'll make it a little bit darker. These curtains I just put up recently, so yeah, it's coming along. And I gotta do something about sound too, because I didn't end up setting up my really nice microphone. We'll just be using webcam audio. Hopefully it's not too grating. But I want it to sound really nice in here because this is also going to end up being sort of a guest bedroom space, which is, in that case, I feel like sound is of utmost importance. Plus, this is also where I do all my therapy sessions. So, like, I don't want, like, sound is really important for that, You don't want, like, people listening outside the door and stuff like that. So if we can dampen some of the sound, that would be pretty nice. So yeah, anyway, here's the plan for today. Pull up my notes. Yeah, so we're gonna be just pretty much focusing on editing. What I really wanna try and do today is get a rough cut done, which would be wonderful. Now, this one's not gonna come out until the 16th, something like that. Oh, thanks, appreciate the compliment about the glasses. These are actually new. So I got these beginning of the year. So it's probably the first time you're seeing them actually. So thanks, Pablo. Yeah, we're gonna try and do a rough edit of the entire video. We'll see if we get that far. It's like I was saying, it's not coming out for like 12 more days. And so in my mind, I was like, oh, I got plenty of time. This whole last week, I was focusing on other stuff instead of working on the video, and then I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh wait, we've got time that we're spending with friends this weekend. We've got my parents coming to town next weekend, and suddenly all of my free time is sort of evaporating. So we're gonna work tonight. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else important. Oh, and give me 1 second. Allie is looking for the drill, and I actually don't know where it is. I thought it was downstairs. I'll message her real quick. Oh, you know where it is? Find it there. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of construction stuff, so we've just been kind of all over the place in terms of getting various projects done, which is why Allie's looking for the drill. But hopefully she finds that okay. And then, yeah, so like this room was a big project. Actually, it's funny, most of this room didn't take a ton of work. I mean, it was a lot of painting and stuff, which is, can be tedious at times. But honestly, what took the most work was this one closet right here, because you can't really see the interior. But before I did work on it, when you open that door, this is a very old house. It's like over 100 years old, and this closet really showed it, because whoever, the people that owned this house beforehand never did any work with the closet. And so, or they did like really horrible patches. So you'd see like crumbling plaster and like huge cracks in the wall. I ended up having to take out like a big section, which I didn't really want to, but I had to in order to get it up and working. So, or get it to the point where it feels like it's not going to suddenly collapse on you. So anyway, it's all done now, which is nice. But yeah, that one closet took like half of the time to get this room prepped. And actually, whoever did any work on that closet before, maybe they were in a hurry, I don't know. But when I started doing a little bit of sanding on the walls to sort of remove, to make a rough surface for the paint so that I could prime and then put paint down so that it really adhered. Turns out whoever did the last paint job painted directly over wallpaper that was on the walls. And yeah, I found that out real quick. And then the people who put on that wallpaper put that wallpaper on over another wallpaper. So anyway, you don't care about this stuff, but to me, I just found that hilarious. I'm like, oh my gosh, people are really finding all the shortcuts they can. Speaking of shortcuts, let's cut on over to what we're going to be working on today. Okay, 1 second. Okay, now we should have audio. Thank you, Dan and Blooms, for the info. Yeah, because I'm not using my normal microphone here, it's getting all messed up because I don't have my normal setup since I moved offices. So anyway, here we are in the setup here. So what we're going to be doing is just going through the timeline, editing it up, getting it nice and clean, and then hopefully by the end it'll just look great. So that's the plan for today. We probably won't get into effects. I do have After Effects pulled up here as well, but to be honest, we'll probably end up spending all of our time just cutting stuff. So without further ado, let's just get into it, huh? So first things first, I've got all these clips. So I just dropped everything in. So we've got the one audio clip, One Take Wonder for Allie here. Although it's an hour long and the video is not going to be an hour long. There's some mess ups in there and stuff. So we're going to pull over the other clips. My camera records in 5-minute segments, and so if you record longer than that, it'll just auto cut it into smaller segments to make it easier to import to your computer and stuff like that. So you don't have these enormous files, you know, you can just preserve the ones that you need, and it's easier for the computer to process. So first things first, we're going to synchronize the audio from the nice microphone, which is that one down there, this green one, and then the camera audio, which is the blue one, because that audio is terrible. Okay, it's done its job, hopefully. Let's verify. Yeah, you can see that it moved over ever so slightly. Let's just listen to a little segment, make sure that it does line up.
In my eye. We were only a month into lockdown.
Yep, that lines up. Okay, great. I might be saying, why is that's weird? She's like all the way, you know, way up there. What's going on? Well, we'll get to that. Don't you worry. First things first. I'm gonna take that, move it all the way over to the edge. We're gonna grab the other clips that we had, move those and lock them up with the first clip. And I'm gonna just quickly cut the audio that we have here. Get rid of this little straggler at the end. Oh, you couldn't see that. And I'm gonna well, let's go to the end over here. Let me move myself over a tiny bit. There we go. Let's go over to the end here and make sure that the audio still syncs up.
How about you? You're still here watching this video. Oh, can you scroll it? It didn't progress.
Yeah, that seems good, more or less. It's a little bit off, but not horribly, so we're gonna keep that. All right, so now we're gonna hold down Alt, select the camera audio and just delete it. And instead we're gonna link up all of these clips to their respective audio. And that way we have nice, clean audio that we're working from. And then we can start messing with the video after that. Some older houses have some weird features. While in a turn of the century house, there was a hole in the second-story floor that led straight to the basement. Couldn't look for the life of me to understand it. There's a hole. You know what? I wonder. I saw this. I don't know if this is true. So this is secondhand information. Oops. So you know, do not take this as truth necessarily. But I saw on Reddit, somebody was talking about how the spiral staircase was developed initially to conserve space within the house, right? So you could keep your large floor plan and you just have this, you know, cylinder essentially in your house for getting up and down the stairs. And then at one point it became, I believe this is true, the fireman's pole was actually not developed for fire stations, but actually for houses to get down to other floors faster. So it could be that the hole that you saw in that house may have once held a fireman's pole, potentially. I guess it depends on how big the hole is they had. Maybe it was too small. But that's wild. I would love to have a fireman's pole in my house. Probably wouldn't fit the aesthetic very well, but you know, it could be cool. Jimmy, how's it going? Glad you're here. Yeah, that's wild. That's cool. All right, so we have now paired all of the audio. As you can see, right, when I click on them, they're all linked up. Oh, now I'm making a mess. They're all linked up. And now we're gonna go to the first one, and I like to do just a little bit of work on the first clip to get some color correction going. Nothing, we're not gonna do the final color correction or anything like that, but just to get it looking halfway decent, right? Just to know what we're working with, because we're shooting in a vlog, which is a very flat image, right? It's very gray, so we want to just bring out a little bit of color. Let's actually see if she held up the card. Yeah, there she did. Okay. First things first. Let's do this first. Take it to the other side. No, you're covering it up. Okay, there we go. That's what we want. We're gonna cut there. Great. Just use that. Look for MBR, color corrector. This is a nice little plugin. If any of you are video folks and you want to get perfect color correction every time, this is super useful. You just click on it. Oh, it didn't pop up, did it? Oh, I see why. I'm not actually on the clip. There we go. You just click on it, right, and it pulls up this box, and then you take the box and you take it to the corners. Now, of course, this only works if you have this like passport thing, this color card. And we'll zoom in just to really get a nice lineup here. It doesn't need to be perfect. I say as I'm trying to line it up perfectly. There we go. All right. Now, first things first, we're actually going to need to instead of sRGB, we want to go to Panasonic Vlog, and it'll do an initial thing, but these colors are off. And so now we're going to click Read from Frame, and it'll sort of correct them out for us. And now, when we go back, you can see it looks a little bit nicer. Now, it doesn't look great, not gonna lie. So we're gonna have to do some fixing on this, okay? But all we want is just that. Do we want to preserve the lightness? Nah, we'll bring down the lightness a little bit too. Because then that gives us a little bit more flexibility. We'll export that LUT. We'll save it as main LUT. Okay. We'll delete that. We don't need that anymore. And now, when we bring in Lumetri, which is for color, doing color on your video, I can browse for that LUT again, and boom, applied. The reason that we do that rather than keeping the other guy is, it's nice to have just one plug-in for all your color, and the other one slows down the video quite a bit. So just for my taste, we're gonna change the temperature slightly. Let's zoom out on the video to get a full view. Oop, too far. Yeah. Now, this is kind of fun. Loki was actually with us the whole video, so he'll just be hanging out in the background, which I think is a fun little Easter egg there, having a cat in the background. So we've got these blown out lights in the back, or windows rather, in the background. Nothing we can do about that. I anticipated that would be there. So we're going to focus mostly on making sure that Allie is looking good in terms of her exposure and contrast and all that jazz. So we might raise it 0.3. It might even be a little bright. We'll do that. And just mess with the contrast slightly. I'm gonna come into creative. This is really just the standard stuff that we do every time. Do the SL Kodak, clean Kodak A look. Kind of evens out some tones, particularly skin tones, which I like. So now Allie's video, her skin tones look a little bit nicer. If I wanted to, I can bump up the vibrance and stuff like that. I'm not gonna do that yet. I'll do a little bit. Okay. Vibrance, versus saturation. Vibrance bumps up non-skin tone colors, whereas saturation just applies to everything. So we're gonna do just a tiny bit of that. We might come back in and do some more correction at a later point. But for right now, and at some point she also pulls up the gray card. Do that as well. Put it back by your face. Okay. And we'll do a selection on that. Oof. No thank you. Do not like that. Yeah, we may just not mess with that. Yeah, I don't like that. We're not gonna do that. Never mind. Okay. So we've got a primary color correction done. Now what we need to do is just kind of apply it to all of our clips. So first things first, I'm going to take the motion and apply that to everything, and now we'll take Lumetri and apply that to everything. Boom. And now if I go to any clip, it will have the same zoom and the same color correction. And we'll mess with that later. I'm not going to do much of that now. Now's the fun part. Now we get to just go through and cut everything. So that's what we're going to do. For your enjoyment, I'm going to make the video a bit larger, okay, so you can see stuff. Let me change my camera here to one moment. Here we go. Slowly cropping myself, just the top of my head, because we don't need that. Okay, great. That's a little bit better. And I'll move myself back down. I might even make myself a little bit smaller. There. All right, so I'm still here with you. I'm just off to the side, a little bit smaller. All right, let's get into it, eh? Yeah, you know what? Sorry to keep changing this. I'm gonna actually just put myself on this side. How's that? But now we gotta crop on the other side. Okay. That's probably not bad. Yeah, that's pretty good. Maybe a little bit more. This is really what you came here for, right? Just to see me slowly crop myself from view. All right, there we go. Good. Okay, enough dilly-dallying. Let's actually get into this. Oh, so I probably want to raise the audio on these. It probably wants to be a little bit more than that. Let's see here. Where is it? What am I doing? There we go. Smart people editing video. Everything in these programs looks like a NASA satellite launch. Did you learn after posting videos? Did you learn in a formal setting? Neither, actually. I learned... Okay, let's just mess with this audio here real quick. 1 second. Let's do 6. It's going to be too high at some points, but that's okay. We'll mess with it afterwards. So I learned how to do Premiere and stuff, you know, all the video editing when I was young, you know, when I just had Windows Movie Maker, and I would make stupid little videos with my brother, and we just record them in a day and then edit them in a day. And, you know, it was pretty limited in terms of what we could do there. in terms of work. And then over time, I slowly started to learn new things and got more sophisticated and went from Movie Maker to iMovie on the Mac. And that was a big jump because then you had like more transitions and a little bit more control, just a tiny bit, not really that much. And then actually the way that I got into Premiere, it was sort of roundabout. I started learning After Effects because I really wanted to learn how to do special effects. You know, I thought it was so cool that you could like add an explosion to a scene that wasn't actually there, or like have a lightsaber, you know, show up. And so I started watching tutorials. If you're interested in that, I will take every opportunity to share this because I think the guy is a saint. I'll drop it in the chat so you can see it. But there's this guy called Andrew Kramer, and he's very funny, very dry humor. And there's the link in the chat there. And he does this website called Video Copilot. The stuff that you see, the most recent tutorials are very complex, but if you scroll all the way to the bottom where he started off, he starts off with some really like simple, simple effects. And of course, you know, he's working in like an old version of After Effects. It's still, a lot of the stuff is still the same, so it's still functional, it's still interesting. And then I just like did every single one and slowly like moved up in terms of complexity with him. You know, like he really kind of teaches you as you go. So I did that, and then I hopped over to use Premiere because After Effects is really just for like shorter segments, you know, doing a chunk, but it's not really meant for like editing, you know. So then I learned Premiere. Premiere is not that complex of a program. It doesn't do that much, but it's nice for like when you have big projects and you need to edit stuff quickly. So anyway, you want to see some of the old videos? Oh my gosh, what do I have? Because so I popped up small segments of some videos in my video on the Dunning-Kruger effect, which I think I titled that one, Why Stupid People Think They Know Everything. And so there is some there. Let me see if I have any of the videos though. And we won't get too caught up in this because, oh yeah, there's plenty of them. Well, now I'm trying to decide how much I want to embarrass myself today. What is that? Yeah, okay. All right. Here's what we'll do. We'll watch one video, a part of one video, or something like that, and then we'll keep going on because I don't want to waste too much time. But let me pause the music here. So this is a video that I did with one of my high school friends. Oh no, I'm gonna get DMCA'd if I play this. Nope, can't do that. Do I have any videos that wouldn't get me DMCA'd? That's the problem, is I made these when I was a kid, and you could put whatever you wanted in there, you know? Like, you didn't have to worry about, oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't think I have any videos that don't have some sort of copyrighted music on them. That's not true. Okay, here we go. So, so like I was talking about learning effects, and so I have a few, and these are really short, a few videos of me just like doing something in front of the camera and then quickly grabbing that video and putting it onto my computer and then doing the tutorial with, with the guy Andrew. So it's just me in my parents' basement. I'm like, I don't know, 18. Look how crappy the video is. Didn't even really play all that well, did it? Huh. Or, what's this? Oh, testing green screen. First time ever doing that. You can see it's all the same day because I just have the same shirt on. There's this one. Dumb stuff like that, Fun things, but really not meant for mass consumption, more of a learning tool. I'm among friends here. That's good, yeah. I believe that. Oh, here's one. How about this one? Roll on. Boom, headshot. Yeah. Oh man, back in the day. Here, I won't play the audio, but I'll play this video. Let's see. This is like one of the early videos that I did with my brother. Oh, let's put this on VLC. Oh no, no! I made like a Matrix movie with my brother, and I'm probably like 15 here. Look at that hair with sunglasses. Oh no. I can't keep playing. Sorry, it's just too much. Yeah, I had to dig back into the vault to find those because for that video, because they were all on my old Mac. On like the laptop that I had, which is barely functional. So I just pulled them up. So Captain Disillusion has a good tutorial on green screen comping. I know. Captain Disillusion is amazing as like an artist, I think. Just really awesome compositing, 3D work. Just, his skills are pretty incredible. He does stuff like Blender, and creates his own models and stuff like that. And that's something that I would love to learn how to do, but I just haven't up to this point. Right now I'm trying to learn how to code, but, well, there's so much to do in so little time. Speaking of which, let's get into cutting this thing apart, huh?
Oh, I thought
I'm
you
gonna
did
kind of
white balance.
scrub as we're going, because I know that the first take is no good. So we're gonna do this one. Was that the only take? No, there's this one too. Okay, let's see. Let's start here. Oops.
Do you remember when I posted that video? Yeah, it was 2 years ago. I look so...
Okay, let's look at this one. Oh yeah, that's right. We ended up doing this one because she has to leave the computer open. Because she ends up referring to it later. Let's just see how this take is though.
Do you remember when I made that video? Yeah, it was 2 years ago. I look so young and hopeful with a glimmer in my eye. We were just a month into lockdown, and I really thought things were going to get better in no time. And yet, here we are, still dealing with quarantines and N95 masks and new, more contagious viral variants. It's kind of depressing to look back on that video and realize how naive we all were. I mean, I remember buying plane tickets right around the time of this first video for a friend's wedding that was supposed to happen in September, just a few months later. But that never happened. It still hasn't happened. My friends have had to reschedule their wedding 3 times, and they might have to push it back again.
Sorry, I'm
And
just
their
scrubbing
story isn't
through to
a
make
unique
things
one.
faster.
So many people have had to push back or cancel important life plans because instead of celebrating the end of the virus and getting back to living life casually, we're heading into year 3 of the pandemic, and we're still arguing about whether or not masks work and whether the incredible vaccine scientists have developed are safe.
Okay.
Are safe.
Cut there. We might actually let it go on until she starts moving right there. In case we want to overlap anything. Okay, we can get rid of this take because we don't need it.
I liked it. To be honest, I'm pretty. It's kind of depressing.
Wait, so
And we're still arguing about whether or not masks work and whether the incredible vaccine scientists have developed are safe.
okay. Yes.
To be honest, I'm pretty disappointed that we've ended up here, but that's not what this video is about. To be honest, I'm pretty disappointed that we've ended up here, but that's not what this video. To be honest, I'm pretty disappointed that we've ended up.
Nah, I like that first one first.
To be honest, I'm pretty disappointed that we've ended up here, but that's not what this video is about. I'm one of those people who is at high risk for serious COVID complications. So, even though I'm fully up to date on my vaccines and got my booster, Micah and I have pretty much been hermits during this latest Omicron wave.
Her eyes are like really big there. Okay, so all I'm doing is just deleting some of those other takes. Maybe they're good, maybe they're not, I don't know, but that one was good enough in my book. And I tend to go for the later take anyway, because it's kind of like, well, we redid it for a reason, you know? So maybe we should just stick with that later take. It tends to be better because then you're familiar with the words that you're saying, right? So you're practiced in it.
To be honest, I'm pretty disappointed that
like
we've
this,
ended
right?
up here, but that's not what this video is about.
I'm gonna actually cut here, maybe. Let's see how this part is.
I'm one of those people who's at high risk for serious COVID complications. So, even though I'm fully up to date on my vaccines and got my booster, Micah and I have pretty much been hermits during this latest Omicron wave. And since I've been sitting at home for weeks, trying not to crawl out of my skin with boredom, I thought now would be a good time to lay out everything we know about what COVID-19 does to your brain, both in the short and long term. Really didn't think I'd...
Okay.
Both in the short and long term.
Cut there. So, yeah, I think I am gonna keep that.
But that's not what this video is about.
We'll cut there.
I'm one of those people who's...
Okay, great. So, who... Is somebody just like spamming? Spamming in the chat? PZASG. I don't know what you're saying. All right.
And long term. Really didn't think I'd be here making this video in the year 2022.
Let's try this again.
To be honest, I'm pretty disappointed that we've ended up here, but
No, don't like that.
that's not what this video is about.
Let's do this.
I'm one of those people who is at high risk for serious COVID complications. So, even though I'm fully up to date on my vaccines and got my booster, Micah and I have pretty much been hermits during this Omicron wave. And since I've been sitting at home for weeks trying not to crawl out of my skin with boredom, I thought now would be a good time to lay out everything we know about what COVID-19 does to your brain, both in the short and long term.
Okay, great. I actually like that take better than the other one. Cut there. We'll remove that. We'll put this in instead. And she does this little aside thing. We tried it a few different times. It's
in the 2
yeah. So we might do that. She does a little aside to the cat.
I really didn't think I'd be making this video in the year 2022, but yet, here I am.
Sure, we'll keep that. All right, then she goes on.
Here
we go. Cut that.
In the 2 years since then, there have been a few major findings about the neurological impacts of COVID-19. One big thing we've learned is that in the 2 years since then, there have been a few major findings about the neurological impacts of COVID-19. One big thing we've learned is that we now know that COVID-19 can affect the cardiovascular system in a pretty big way. So we're talking about your heart, arteries, veins, all the stuff that circulates your blood. And because the brain is so dependent on the heart and blood to provide it with oxygen and nutrients, anything that affects the cardiovascular system has major impacts on the brain. For example, the SARS-CoV-2 virus can actually weaken blood vessels, including those in the brain. And if they're weakened enough, it can lead to some serious issues, like breaks in the blood vessels, which could cause brain bleeds and leaks. Now, normally, the brain is pretty well protected from inflammation and pathogens, thanks to the special properties of its blood vessels.
We call this the blood-brain barrier, and it's really good at its job. But we now know that not only can COVID cross the blood-brain barrier to get into your brain, though that seems to be relatively rare, it can also break down that barrier, letting invaders into the brain that would normally be kept out. This can lead to inflammation and infection in the brain, which can, in turn, cause damage. And trust me, you really don't want your brain to become a war zone for fighting against infections because the collateral damage can be pretty significant.
Okay, that's one take. We do a few of these, I believe. So here's what we're gonna do. Delete that. And then we're gonna find the next one.
In the 2 years since then.
Yeah. So here's the next one. Pro tip, if you're into video editing, that sort of thing, use your waveforms, right? Can't tell you how useful it is to have these like audio indicators. You can see how it repeats even, you know, if you end up doing lines in a similar manner, you know, you end up you're speaking the same words, right? And so you'll actually see the peaks and valleys kind of copy, like they repeat, right? And so if you look at, you know, beginning of this section, right? Sort of have like a chunk, boom, 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 boom. And then you'll see that repeat here, boom, 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 boom. And then you'll see that again in this other segment, right? So it's just sort of like easy to see like, oh, okay, so there's take one, here's take two, and here's take three, right? And then you can see that it kind of changes from there. This looks very different from this. So anyway, just in case any of you are interested. So what we're gonna do is make a cut right there, and we're gonna delete that.
In the 2 years since then, there have been a few major findings about the neurological impacts of COVID-19. One big thing we've learned is that we now know that COVID-19 can affect the cardiovascular system in a pretty big way. So we're talking about your heart, your arteries, veins, all the stuff that circulates your blood. And because the brain is so dependent on the heart and blood to provide it with oxygen and nutrients, anything that affects the cardiovascular system has major impacts on the brain. For example, the SARS-CoV-2 virus can actually weaken blood vessels, including those in the brain. And if they're weakened enough, it can lead to some serious issues, like breaks in the blood vessels, which can cause brain bleeds and leaks. Now, normally, the brain is pretty well protected from inflammation and pathogens, thanks to the special properties of its blood vessels. We call this the blood-brain barrier, and it's really good at its job. But we now know that not only can COVID cross the blood-brain barrier to get into your brain, though that does seem to be relatively uncommon, it also can break down the barrier, which lets invaders into the brain that would normally be kept out. This can lead to inflammation and infection in the brain, which can, in turn, cause damage. And trust me, you do not want your brain to become a war zone for fighting against infections, because the collateral damage can be significant.
All right, so there's the end of the third take, I guess, but we're only really going to be looking at one of them. Stop right before she blinks. So Vince, so you asked, with regards to quality versus effort, are there any merits to reshooting one video 50 times for the perfectly paced and cohesive video without cuts? Or is that too much effort for too little payout? You know, I guess it depends on what kind of style you're looking for, right? So, you know, if you look at somebody like Tom Scott, actually, he's a pretty good example of someone who tries very hard to make his videos seem like he tries to fit it into what are called like broadcast standards, right? In the way that like you might have a live broadcast where there's a person out in the field and they're telling you a story and they're doing it live to the camera, and therefore they're doing it all in one take, right? They just give their report. Tom Scott kind of goes for that feel. Now, sometimes he does one take, right? And he'll probably do it a bunch of times to get one that's really good. But he also is creative with it, right? Where like he might do what feels like one take, but there will be cuts, hidden cuts essentially, because he'll have video playing over like while he's talking, right? And therefore he can kind of cut up different takes as he likes because he's hiding it with B-roll essentially. Take that versus, for example, another friend of mine and YouTuber Medlife Crisis, Rowan over at Medlife Crisis. He's a doctor, right? And he's still working, you know, works at the hospital, and he's a very busy guy. And so sometimes he does these very long takes, and there's mistakes in it, right? He'll stumble over his words, or he'll kind of have to correct himself on the fly, and he just keeps going, right? And I think that's a time-saving thing, probably, I would guess. And people forgive him for it, you know, they don't care about that. In terms of whether or not there's like merits, you know, of course there's merits to it. Is it necessary? I don't think it necessarily affects quality if you have cuts. You know, I think as a society we've come to, and especially on YouTube, you know, we've come to accept having many cuts in a video and not really even blink an eye at it. And it doesn't really affect people's like perception of it, right? But it does sort of create a style, right? And I don't think that cutting a video also doesn't mean that it doesn't require effort too. I guess it just depends on where you're putting the effort. So it takes more, perhaps it can take more effort to get a like perfect take, right? And for me, in my videos, I've been trying to do longer takes in part because I like that style where it's, in terms of the pacing, but also because then I have to cut less. I can just, it means I do more work on filming, and filming takes a long time, but then when I sit down to edit, it feels like less work, because then I just have to find the one good long take for the next 2 minutes or whatever, and then I'm done, versus like having to cut up every line. So anyway, so that's a lot of effort to have to cut up everything. But I think it just depends on what you want your style to be. Some people really like the no cut look, and some people really like the fast-paced cut look. You can get kind of whatever style you want with cutting, right? Versus if you're trying to just do one take, then you really got to nail it in camera. Dan, that's impressive. Where the beats are for the cut. Oh, smart. Yeah, TikTok, that's a whole other world. Andrew, PPE in most practices are a long time in the making. I remember a warehouse supervisor chewing us out on why egress zone needs to be clear. Unfortunately, progress is based in mistakes, experience, and deaths. True. Yeah, we keep learning more and more every day. And frankly, money, I would say, is a big factor there too. Like, there's a reason that not every hospital worker has an N95 mask every time they walk into the hospital, right? Even now, even with COVID and everything, it's expensive. And if it's not required, then you can get away with it. Hey, Effigy Drums, glad to see you. Thank you for the insight. I appreciate it takes and bringing attention, creative B-roll usage of viewer acceptance. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, Tom Scott also does stuff where he cuts a lot as well, but I feel like normally he does longer takes. He prefers that. Oh yeah, totally. Appreciate it. You're totally fine, my dude. All right, let's keep going. So that was the end of take 3. I think we might end up going with that take versus this one. Let's compare.
In the 2 years since then, there have been a few major findings about the neurological impacts of COVID-19. One big thing we've learned is that we now know that COVID-19 can affect the cardiovascular system in a pretty big way. So we're talking about your heart, arteries, veins, all the stuff that circulates your blood. And because the brain is so dependent on the heart and blood to provide it with oxygen and nutrients, anything that affects the cardiovascular system has major impacts on the brain. For example, the SARS-CoV-2 virus can actually weaken blood vessels, including those in the brain. And if they're weakened enough, it can lead to some serious issues like breaks in the blood vessels, which could cause brain bleeds and leaks. Now, normally, the brain is pretty well protected from inflammation and pathogens, thanks to the special properties of its blood vessels. We call this the blood-brain barrier, and it's really good at its job. But we now know that not only can COVID cross the blood-brain barrier to get into your brain, though that seems to be relatively rare, it can also break down that barrier, letting invaders into the brain that would normally be kept out. This can lead to inflammation and infection in the brain, which can, in turn, cause damage. And trust me, you really don't want your brain to become a war zone for fighting against infections, because the collateral damage can be pretty significant.
That does look like Bill.
In the 2 years since then, there have been a few major findings about the neurological impacts of COVID-19. One big thing we've learned is that we now know that COVID-19 can affect the cardiovascular system in a pretty big way. So we're talking about your heart, your arteries, veins, all the stuff that circulates your blood. And because the brain is so dependent on the heart and blood to provide it with oxygen and nutrients, anything that affects the cardiovascular system has major impacts on the brain. For example, the SARS-CoV-2 virus can actually weaken blood vessels, including those in the brain.
I like this
And if they're
second
weakened
part.
enough,
The
it
beginning
can lead to
wasn't
some serious issues,
super
like
strong.
breaks in the blood vessels, which can cause brain bleeds and leaks. Now, normally, the brain is pretty well protected from inflammation and pathogens, thanks to the special properties of its blood vessels. We call this the blood-brain barrier, and it's really good at its job. But we now know that not only can COVID cross the blood-brain barrier to get into your brain, though that does seem to be relatively uncommon, it also can break down the barrier, which lets invaders into the brain that would normally be kept out. This can lead to inflammation and infection in the brain, which can, in turn, cause damage. And trust me, you do not want your brain to become a war zone for fighting against infections, because the collateral damage can be significant.
Okay, so between those two takes, thoughts? Do you like the first one better, second one better?
In the 2 years since then, there have been a few major findings
I'm sort of
about
liking
the
the first take
neurological
better, I think.
impacts of
This is the first
COVID-19.
take.
One big thing we've learned is that we now know that COVID-19 can affect the cardiovascular system in a pretty big way. So we're talking about your heart, arteries, veins, all the stuff that circulates your blood. And because the brain is so dependent on the heart and blood to provide it with oxygen and nutrients, anything that affects the cardiovascular system has major impacts on the brain. For example, the SARS-CoV-2 virus can actually weaken blood vessels, including those in the brain. And if they're weakened enough, it can lead to some serious issues, like breaks in the blood vessels, which could cause brain bleeds and leaks. Now, normally, the brain is pretty well protected.
I think I like the first take, sorry. First take better. Decided. Onwards.
We also now understand that COVID-19 can cause serious blood clotting issues. And when blood clots end up in the brain, they can block blood.
Okay, so let's compare these two takes. One. What's this?
We also
Okay, just the end of that take.
can be pretty significant.
Okay, right before she blinks. There we go. And here's the second take. So we've
4 to 5 minutes of low oxygen levels.
there. You could use the upper left corner to show informational diagrams, and if you like a certain part on a different take, you can full screen a graphic for the transition. I know, you know, you can get really creative to try to hide cuts, and frankly, I don't often find it worth it. You know, if there's stuff on screen, then it's fine, right? Like if you're using B-roll, or if you have a diagram that makes sense. But oftentimes it's just a little bit more work than it's worth. Especially when you're doing this on an ongoing basis like that. Do you consider how the takes fit in with each other in regards to tone, or do you just consider them on a case-by-case basis? Yeah, I do actually, I will, you know, I find this problem with my own videos where, you know, since I'm trying to do these longer takes, sometimes I'll do a little bit of a different tone for different takes, and then you know, by the time I get to doing the next section, it can sound a little bit inconsistent. So I do try to match it as much as possible, so that it doesn't sound weird, you know, to jump from from one tone to another. So with Allie, you know, she does a pretty good job, I would say, of matching stuff. So I don't generally have too much issue with that. It's more my own, and maybe it's just because I'm more critical of my own tone. But yeah. Yeah, I agree, Andrew. Hunting down the right things to show is very time consuming. Just gotta, you know, you gotta figure out what's worth it. We got limited time, you know? Okay.
Levels. We also now understand.
Okay, so we've got 2 takes. We're gonna play both of them, and I'd appreciate feedback. Maybe it'll become very obvious which take we want. We're gonna start with the first one. This is take 1, and it'll go immediately into take 2, and I will notate when that transition happens.
We also now understand that COVID-19 can cause serious blood clotting issues. And when blood clots end up in the brain, they can block blood flow and cause fun things like strokes. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. Strokes are not fun. Finally, COVID-19's attack on the body can lead to dangerously low blood oxygen levels, which is usually what requires severely ill patients to be intubated and placed on a ventilator. Your brain uses about 1/5 of your body's total oxygen supply, so oxygen is extremely important. When the brain doesn't get enough oxygen, this is called cerebral hypoxia, and this lack of oxygen can starve the brain and kill brain cells, causing permanent brain damage. And this brain damage can happen fast. By many estimates, brain cell death starts to happen after only about 4 to 5 minutes of low oxygen levels. We also now understand that COVID-19 can cause serious blood clotting issues. And when blood clots end up in the brain, they can block blood flow and cause fun things like strokes. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. Strokes are not fun. Finally, COVID-19's attack on the body can lead to dangerously low blood oxygen levels, which usually is what requires severely ill patients to be intubated and placed on a ventilator. Your brain uses about 1/5 of your body's total oxygen supply, so oxygen is extremely important. When the brain doesn't get enough oxygen, this is called cerebral hypoxia, and that lack of oxygen can starve the brain and kill brain cells, causing permanent brain damage. And that brain damage can happen really fast. By many estimates, brain cell death starts to happen after only about 4 to 5 minutes of severely low oxygen levels.
Okay, that's the end of take 2. Yeah, I think I like 2 better, personally. Yeah, number 2, great. We're gonna do 2. Appreciate the feedback. Yeah, I agree. I think it was more charismatic, and I think part of the reason was because she went from the first one, she went from the previous section directly into it, and I think, I don't know, there's something about like starting over that gives you this like, you know, burst of energy.
Minutes of severely low oxygen levels.
Okay, let's cut it right there. The strokes of 1 was a little strong, but I think 1 may have been fine. Yeah, we can always play around with that later on if we don't like the way that she does, like, say, strokes in this section. We can grab it from another take. So I'm not too worried about it. I think it'll be fine. I'm gonna end up doing a little, you know, zoom in and then zoom out kind of thing. You know, make it fun. Yeah. Yeah, they're cringy right now. They are right now. Once they're cut up, I think it'll be better. Okay. Okay, let's see. So we've got probably this take. We probably got this one.
We also.
Yeah. And I don't think this is. I think this is different.
A study conducted.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we got another comparison going on here. probably, let's see if she messes up at the end here.
Smell and taste after COVID. It stopped progressing.
Yeah, okay. So we can just delete that out, right?
We also know that COVID-19 can...
Let's see if she ends up doing it here.
A study conducted...
No. So she starts and stops a study conducted. So we know we can delete all these.
GT2.
What does she say here?
The genes known as UGT2A1. I know. And smell.
Wait.
We also know that COVID-19 can cause a loss or change of taste and smell, though this symptom is less common with some of the more recent variants of the virus. For some people, it's temporary, lasting just a few days or weeks, and it may be more related to congestion issues than anything else.
I think she definitely does that.
But by some estimates, over 1 million Americans have experienced this change for more than 6 months. And I've heard of at least one case of someone who still hadn't gotten their taste or smell back after over a year. A study conducted...
Yeah, there's the study. Okay.
Taste or smell back after over a year.
Okay, cut right there. Now she goes into a study. It looks like she does 3 takes, 1, 2, 3, but messes up on them. And then we got the 4th one that runs through, and that one's good. And I don't think this is the same thing. Let's play just to make sure.
In the olfactory epithelium in your nose and play a role in how your body metabolizes odorants. Luckily,
No. Okay. Great. There we go.
a study conducted using 23andMe genetic data found that there are actually specific genetic variants that are linked to whether or not COVID causes you to lose taste and smell. The genes, known as UGT2A1 and UGT2A2, code for proteins that are expressed in the olfactory epithelium in your nose, and they play a role in how your body metabolizes odorants.
So that section right there, that's all we got. You know, that's the only good take that we've got of that, right? And then she does this whole other section, and then it seems like she does another take of this next part as well. Let's listen to the beginning of this.
Luckily, it seems like rather than SARS-CoV-2 infecting your
Yeah. Luckily. All right. So we're gonna do another comparison, all right? Would you consider splicing in a half take if it was really good up to the mess up? Yeah, I've done that before. Usually I like to go for whole takes just because it's easier. I don't have to worry about, kind of like what we were talking about before with tone shifts or with, I don't know, it's just more work, right? If somebody messes up, then they're gonna do another take. And in terms of editing purposes, sometimes I'll just say, yeah, we'll just use the whole take, you know. It's not about perfection, it's about good enough, oftentimes. Because people don't notice the difference, quite frankly, right? If you take what you think is like a really, you know, it's like, that's a great take of that line, and you put it up against another take of the line, and if you were to swap them out as part of the video, right? And even if you did that for the whole video, and you showed a person both of the videos, they probably wouldn't notice. So it's just not worth it.
Luckily, it seems like rather than SARS-CoV-2...
Okay, so, sorry. We're gonna do a comparison again. We're gonna play number 1 right now. And then immediately following, we'll play number 2, right? Yeah, there's number 2. So we got number 1 right here, number 2 right here. And I'll say when we switch. So let's start off with number 1.
Luckily,
Take 1.
it seems like rather than SARS-CoV-2 infecting your olfactory or gustatory neurons, it's actually attacking other nearby cells that factor into how we smell and taste things. That said, other factors could also be at play. like inflammation in the olfactory bulb or inflammatory molecules in the brain. And it's not clear why some people seem to take much longer to recover their senses, or whether some people might never get those senses back at all. It's possible that for some individuals, COVID-19 actually kills off neurons, and they might never smell or taste again. Or maybe worse, things might never smell or taste right again. This might not seem like that big of a deal, especially because for some people, the loss of smell and taste are their only real symptoms of COVID-19. But there's actually a lot of evidence that losing your senses of smell and taste is really bad for your mental health. Smell is a sense that is strongly tied to our memories, and the enjoyment of food and drink is a highly valued social and pleasurable experience. Research has found that people who have lost smell and taste due to COVID report feeling depressed and anxious, even after they've otherwise recovered from the illness. And even before COVID, research has shown a strong correlation between loss of taste and smell and increased suicide rates. So this is not a small issue.
Okay, take two.
Luckily, it seems like rather than the SARS-CoV-2 virus infecting your olfactory or gustatory neurons, it's actually attacking other nearby cells that factor into how we smell and taste things. That said, other factors could also be playing a role, like inflammation in the olfactory bulb or inflammatory molecules in the brain. And it's not clear why some people seem to take much longer to recover their senses, or whether some people might never get those senses back at all. It's possible that for some individuals, COVID-19 actually kills off neurons, and they might never smell or taste again. Or maybe worse, things might never taste or smell right again. This might not seem like that big of a deal, especially because for some people, the loss of smell and taste are their only real symptoms of COVID-19. But there's actually a lot of evidence that losing your senses of smell and taste is really bad for your mental health. Smell is a sense that it's strongly tied to our memories, and the enjoyment of food and drink is a highly valued social and pleasurable experience. Research has found that people who have lost smell and taste due to COVID report feeling depressed and anxious, even after they've otherwise recovered from the illness. And even before COVID, research has shown a strong correlation between the loss of taste and smell and increased suicide rates. So this is not a small issue.
Okay, all right. Well, barring the mistake there at the end, thoughts? Take one, take two. Here's my feeling before I get a barrage of answers is take two, the beginning, really strong, really good. And I feel like for the most part, I think we can use most of that take. At one point, it feels like there's a few mess ups, and it loses a little bit of energy. And then of course she messes up at the end right there. And so part of me feels like let's take two up to a particular point where it feels like a natural break, cut it, and put in take one. So you like take one better, number two, but in number one the breathing sound is a bit more consistent. Yeah, I mean the breathing sounds I'm not going to worry about too much. We might end up if we've got B-roll overlaid during any of this, then we can remove breaths, but it's a little bit unnatural if you try to like do anything with your breaths in video. It's very noticeable, because I think humans are just kind of attuned to hear breaths. You agree, start of two and cut to one? All right, let's do that. Two is good for enticing a viewer. You prefer just listening to one? Well, we're splitting the baby. We're gonna start with two, more energy, and then at some point we're going to cut to one. Now I don't know if you guys noticed this. It's very much stuck out to me. she's talking about loss of taste and smell. And in both takes, she says lost. What? Anyway, I thought that was funny. Right.
Luckily, it seems like rather than the SARS-CoV-2 virus infecting your olfactory or gustatory neurons, it's actually attacking other nearby cells that factor into how we smell and taste things. That said, other factors could also be playing a role, like inflammation in the olfactory bulb or inflammatory molecules in the brain. And it's not clear why some people seem to take much longer to recover their senses, or whether some people might never get those senses back at all. It's possible that for some individuals, COVID-19 actually kills off neurons, and they might never smell or taste again. Or maybe worse, things might never taste or smell right again. This might not seem like that big of a deal, especially because for some people, the loss of smell and taste are their only real symptoms of COVID-19.
Hang on. Listen to that.
This might not seem like that big of a deal, especially because for some people, the loss of smell and taste are their only real symptoms of COVID-19. But there's actually a lot of evidence that losing your senses of smell and taste is really bad for your mental health. Smell is a
Okay, I think we're gonna cut it before she starts talking about
loss
that.
of smell or smell right again.
That's kind of a natural breaking point right there. And then maybe we can switch over to 1.
Or maybe worse, things might never smell or taste right again.
Okay, so we'll take this one, move it over, right? Take that one, move that, move these back into place. And now let's see, gustatory or gustatory. I mean, I suppose you can pronounce it however you want. I've always heard gustatory, personally. But let's, you know what? Let's, just for kicks, let's look this up. Oops. All right. Play it.
Gustatory.
What? Okay, that's wrong. No, I'm just kidding. We're all wrong.
Gustatory.
Gustatory? I swear, somebody's like, they're trolling.
Gustatory.
Gustatory. Okay, so we got 1 point for gustatory. UK.
Gustatory. Gustatory.
Man, all gustatory. Well, I don't know. This is like very much making me sound like I don't know what I'm talking about.
Gustatory.
What? 71 pronunciations. Well, I'm sure gustatory is one of those.
Gustatory.
Gustatory.
Gustatory. I don't know, man. That surprises me if it is pronounced that way. Although none of the, frankly, are we to trust, well, I suppose if it's like the dictionary, we can trust that. I don't know. What do you guys think? That surprises me. Let's see. I didn't catch the first few times now that you pointed it out. I'm going to be listening for lost/lost. Yeah, I don't know, it sticks out to me. Vince, you're making me look bad, man. Oh, I just ended the poll. I didn't realize that was still going on. If every pronunciation is different, how do you know which is right? It's very true. Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, maybe it is gustatory. I've always heard it pronounced gustatory in school. Maybe that doesn't say very much for the schools that I attended. Hey, Jom, how's it going? 50% of stream time is now looking for the right pronunciation. You wouldn't go wrong if the phonetic was written. It's true. That's true. I'm not gonna, frankly, I'm not too worried about mispronouncing it. We did a whole video about the gustatory sense, and nobody ever said anything about pronunciation. So, I don't know. Hopefully nobody points it out here. Of course, Vince is gonna be like first on the video as soon as it comes out. Be like, it's gustatory, actually. I'm doing good, John. Happy to see you. All right, let's get back into it. So, so we just cut take 2 at the beginning and then cut to take 1
Taste
at the
again.
end. So let's see
Or
that transition.
maybe worse, things might never taste or smell right again. This might not seem like that big of a deal, especially because for some people, the loss of smell and taste are their only real symptoms of
It's a
COVID-19.
goose named Gus.
But there's actually a lot of
Exactly.
evidence that losing your senses of smell and taste is really bad for your mental health. Smell is a sense that is strongly tied to our memories, and the enjoyment of food and drink is a highly valued social and pleasurable experience. Research has found that people who have lost smell and taste due to COVID report feeling depressed and
It is pretty
anxious,
smooth. I like that transition.
even after they've otherwise recovered from the illness. And even before COVID, research has shown a strong correlation between loss of taste and smell and increased suicide rates.
See, there she said
So,
loss. She didn't say lost.
Correlation between loss of taste and smell
Perfect
and
there.
increased suicide rates. So this is not a small issue.
Versus, where was it here?
Or smell right.
No.
It's possible that for some individuals, COVID-19 actually kills off neurons.
No. Well, whatever. We fixed it. Let's kind of trim up the ending though, just to make it
Not a
nice.
small issue.
So she kind of makes a face there. Right before the... it's kind of short, isn't it? We'll go there. Okay, great. I've been doing a few more J cuts lately, which is where essentially if you have like 2 clips, you take one clip and you move it slightly underneath the other one. And what that does is it creates a little bit of a transition. It just kind of, you can smooth out your cuts a little bit. So I just did it with this right here.
Taste or smell right again. This might not seem like
Right.
that big of a deal, especially
Not bad. But we'll do that later. Right now we're just cut. Okay. I'm glad that you're not breaking down, John. I hope it stays that way. Beaker Top, you lost your taste and smell? You got COVID? That sucks. Do you know which variant you got? It probably wasn't Omicron. Omicron, for whatever reason, Omicron doesn't seem to have as high of rates of that symptom. It's more Delta and the original. What are we calling that? Just Alpha? I actually don't even know.
this might not seem like that big of a deal, especially because for some people, the loss of smell and taste are their only real symptoms of COVID.
Wait. Was this part of... No! What the heck? But you heard that, right? She said lost.
Especially because for some people, the loss of smell and taste are their...
The loss of taste and smell.
The loss of smell and taste...
Anyway, we don't have to take that take because we already have our take. No, just heard her pronunciation. I am healthy. Oh, I get you. That's good. I'm glad that you're healthy. COVID classic, the OG Rona. How about original, or no, you just said OG. I'm just kind of stealing that. Granddaddy COVID? Vintage, I like that, yeah. Classic, antique Rona. COVID 1.0, that's a good one too. Crystal COVID, oh no. COVID light. Hey, Allie's here now. We were just talking about how in some of the takes, instead of loss of taste and smell, you say lost. You're not bad at pronouncing words.
Taste or their own.
Here.
The loss of smell.
See, that's what we're talking about right there. Instead of saying the loss of taste.
The loss of smell and taste or their
Lost of smell and taste. Coca-Cola Classic. Perfect. Also, we're having a fight about whether it's pronounced gustatory or gustatory. Vince is convinced that it's gustatory, and there are a lot of pronunciations online that say it that way, but I've always heard it gustatory. So, I'm willing to stick with that.
But there's actually a lot of evidence that losing your senses of smell and taste is really bad for your mental health. Smell is a sense.
Okay, we already got a take of that, right? Did I just delete? No.
Between loss of taste and smell and increased suicide rates.
No, that's
So
fine.
this is not a small issue.
Okay, there we go.
Feeling depressed and anxious, even after they've otherwise recovered from the illness. And even before COVID, research has shown a
Okay, so now we're on to the next take.
experience. Research has found that people who have lost smell and taste due to COVID report feeling depressed and anxious, even after they've otherwise recovered from the illness. And even
Okay, hang on.
there's actually a lot of evidence that losing your senses of smell and taste is really bad for your mental health. Smell is a sense that it's strongly tied to our memories. And
Wait. Did I just delete a section then that we wanted?
this might not seem like that big of a deal, especially because for some people, the loss of smell and taste are their only real symptoms of COVID-19.
Okay, yeah. So that is, I thought that was a repeat of a take, but it's actually new material. So we're gonna keep it.
This is not a small issue. This might not seem like that big.
Wait. I'm catching up. It's like putting an R in between vowels in the English accent. Yeah. It's roar inside. It's roar inside. Oh, Paul Hollywood. It's tough for words that don't have consonants in between them, like in French. How you do pronounce the ending consonants in words of the next. Yeah, I know. Language is weird, man. In Washington, I actually don't know how this rule works, but in Washington State, they'll pronounce it Washington and stuff like that. I don't get that, but I'm sure there's a linguist out there that could explain it to me. All right, smells kind of. I know, smell is like ultra powerful. Enveloped in warmth versus letter envelope. Oh, I see what you're saying. Envelope. Well, envelop would be a verb, right? Envelope is like a noun. You can envelop an envelope, but you can't envelope an envelope.
This might not seem like that big of a deal, especially because for some people, the loss of smell and taste are their only real symptoms of COVID-19. But there's actually a lot of evidence that losing your senses of smell and taste is really bad for your mental health. Smell is a sense that it's strongly tied to our memories, and the enjoyment of food and drink is a highly valued social and pleasurable experience. research has found that people who have lost smell and taste due to COVID report feeling depressed and anxious, even after they've otherwise recovered from the illness. And even before COVID, research has shown a strong correlation between the loss of taste and smell and increased suicide rates. So this is not a small issue.
No, okay, so that was a repeat. Oh my gosh, I'm losing it, guys. Okay. Okay. We're back. Hello. All right. So we're gonna play this section. I'm guessing there's another take of it right here. So let's see how this starts.
Other problems that physicians and researchers have seen include a condition called diffuse white matter disease.
Okay.
Other problems that physicians and researchers have seen include a condition called diffuse.
Yep. And I think this is different.
Those cognitive difficulties.
Yeah, okay. All right, we're gonna do another comparison, folks.
Found that this white matter damage can last upwards of a year.
Okay. Allie was laughing at me because I made a noise. All right, here we go. All right, another comparison, folks. 2 takes. Take 1, take 2. We're gonna start with take 1, see how it goes, see if we like it. Then we're gonna switch over, take 2. I will tell you when that starts, and we'll compare them, see which one we like more. All right, here we go.
Other problems that physicians and researchers have seen include a condition called diffuse white matter disease, which manifests as changes in the white matter of the brain. As a refresher, gray matter refers to areas of the brain that are dense with neuronal cell bodies and connections. These are the places where neurons mostly exchange their signals. White matter, on the other hand, is mostly made up of the axons of neurons. You might think of them like the information highways of the brain, allowing neurons to send signals over longer distances. White matter is white because of myelination, the protective fatty sheaths that wrap around neuronal axons to help them send signals more efficiently. If something disrupts the white matter of the brain, this can interrupt signaling between different regions of the brain in a pretty big way. We're not sure exactly what causes this diffuse white matter disease. It might be a lack of oxygen, or it might be the inflammation, or the immune response, or the blood vessel issues. But this white matter damage could be part of why people recovering from COVID sometimes seem to experience cognitive difficulties. White matter damage is associated with issues in memory and focus, problem solving, and mood. At least one study has found that this white matter damage can last upwards of a year. Other problems
Okay, so that was take 1, all right? There's some like running out of breath going on there. Let's listen to take 2.
Other problems that physicians and researchers have seen include a condition called diffuse white matter disease, which manifests as changes in the white matter of the brain. Now, as a refresher, gray matter refers to areas of the brain that are dense with...
She's like holding her breath. All right, we're not going to use that part.
And those cognitive difficulties
Let's see.
wrap around neuronal axons to help...
Okay, there it's better. So, so we're not going to use the beginning of this one. Okay, let's just listen to it. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Other problems that physicians and researchers have seen include a condition called diffuse white matter disease, which manifests as changes in the white matter of the brain. Now, as a refresher, gray matter refers to areas of the brain that are dense with neuronal cell bodies and connections. These are the places where neurons mostly exchange their signals. White matter, on the other hand, is mostly made up of the axons of neurons. You might think of them like the information highways of the brain, allowing neurons to send signals over longer distances. White matter is white because of myelination, the protective fatty sheaths that wrap around neuronal axons to help them send signals more efficiently. If something disrupts the white matter of the brain, this can interrupt signaling between different regions of the brain in a pretty big way. We're not exactly sure what causes this diffuse white matter disease. It might be a lack of oxygen, or it might be the inflammatory molecules, or the immune response, or the blood vessel issues. This white matter damage could be part of why people recovering from COVID sometimes seem to experience cognitive difficulties. White matter damage is associated with issues in memory and focus, problem solving, and mood. And at least one study has found that this white matter damage can last upwards of a year.
All right, that's take 2. What are we feeling? All right, we had take 1. That was take 2. I'll give my 2 cents. I think the beginning of 1, I'd probably take the beginning of 1 up until probably when she starts talking about myelination, the color of myelination and how it's white. Personally, that's what I'm thinking. Andrew, you said number 1 for the hand gestures and sitting posture. I do like the sitting posture better in 1, I think. I think you're right. A little bit more casual. But it's okay. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Right? You can see the water bottle switch position. Right there. I think I'm going to go with 1, the beginning of 1, and then we'll switch to 2. Good. Vince, you asked what color are demyelinated axons. I'm not sure, but my assumption is that they're going to be gray. Or we're talking about gray and white matter. I would get Allie, you should answer this question if you're still in the chat. What color are demyelinated axons? My assumption is when we're talking about gray matter and white matter, if myelinated axons are white, then when they're demyelinated, they would appear gray in whatever that scan is. That would be my assumption. You like the second though? More natural? That's good. Yeah, I think you're not sure they look like gray matter either? Interesting. So would it just look like nothing? I mean, obviously they have some mass, so they'd have some. I just don't know, like, if gray matter and white matter actually look gray and white. They probably look grayish. Yeah. Like when you, yeah, I guess that makes sense. But they wouldn't be mistaken for gray matter. Okay. So they would be grayish, but a different tinge of gray than than gray matter. They wouldn't be as dark maybe or something. I don't know. We're just making this all up anyway. Or I am at least. Okay. So let's do this. We're gonna grab the beginning of 1.
Other problems that physicians and researchers have seen include a condition called diffuse white matter disease, which manifests as changes in the white matter of the brain. As a refresher, gray matter refers to areas of the brain that are dense with neuronal cell bodies and connections. These are the places where neurons mostly exchange their signals. White matter, on the other hand, is mostly made up of the axons of neurons. You might think of them like the information highways of the brain, allowing neurons to send signals over longer distances. White matter is white
Okay, so we're thinking of switching it there. Let's let it run a little
because
bit.
of myelination, the protective fatty sheaths that wrap around neuronal axons to help them send signals more efficiently. If something disrupts the white matter of the brain, this can interrupt
We're gonna change it there.
distances.
Right there.
What?
Okay, great. And now we've got our transition.
Brain, allowing neurons to send signals over longer distances. White matter is white because of myelination, the protective fatty sheaths that wrap around neuronal axons to help them send signals more efficiently.
Yeah, I like that.
If something disrupts the white
Great.
matter of the brain, this can interrupt signals. At least one study has found that this white matter damage can last upwards of a year.
Okay, great.
And those cognitive difficulties may be one of the...
All right, so that's not a full take. We've got this one here.
And those cognitive difficulties...
We've got this one here.
And those cognitive difficulties may be one of the insidious...
How about this here?
The CDC...
No. Okay, great. So we're probably just gonna take this section here. Boom. My internet is really acting up, but I had a lot of fun learning about editing and myelination and gooses. Best of luck and hoping to catch you guys again next time. Thanks so much, Vince. It's been fun talking. And, you know, the debate rages on about whether it's gustatory or gustatory. I look forward to fighting about it in the comments of this video. No, I'm just kidding. Have a good night.
And those cognitive...
Let's see here. Okay. I'm not even gonna listen to this take because I imagine there's a
is
mess
that
here.
long COVID was a thing.
Okay, yeah, we ended up redoing it. Okay. Man, I thought splicing together takes was hard when dealing with just audio. Looks tough with video too. Splicing vocal takes isn't that hard when there are measures of rest in between parts and there's a drum track covering up the vocal cuts. Yeah, I know. I've thought about doing like podcasting or something like that. It definitely would remove a lot of elements. You know, where I spend the most time here is with animation, and then of course this process, like the actual cutting of video to make it look good. So if I was dealing with audio, then it would just be about like making the audio sound good. Now don't get me wrong, then there's more focus put onto the backgrounds, right? The like getting balance perfectly settled and like making sure that it sounds good in like headphones and, you know, a car radio and, you know, wherever. And then you can be really creative with that, you know, with like having your music kind of help drive the story too. So that can be fun. But yeah, video, it does get a bit more complicated. I just did some Googling. I think demyelination looks pretty distinct. Classified as lesions, looks like they typically look for specific kinds of lesions and different diseases associated with demyelination. But unmyelinated axons also look gray. All right, we got an answer. So demyelinated axons would look gray. Yeah, okay, that's the answer. Well, I was right, based on no evidence, but hey, I'll take the win. Unmyelinated does not equal demyelinated. Oh. Demyelinated looks distinct. Oh, I see. Demyelinated means it had myelination and then it was removed. Unmyelinated means no myelination ever. So then would demyelinated axons, since they would be damaged, they would probably look really dark, like black, or something, or yeah, I don't know. Oh no. Yeah, I don't know what you did, but my my moderator, my auto mod, timed you out because you were spamming. That's weird. That's funny. I should adjust that.
And those cognitive difficulties may be one of the insidious and underappreciated after effects of COVID. because
No
they
emojis.
stick around even after the acute illness has passed.
Only words.
This, of course,
Oh,
is part of what we
drums
now
can do
call long COVID. Back in April 2020, the coronavirus hadn't really been around long enough for
Maybe you're
anyone
not
to
using the
realize that
Twitch
so-called
emojis.
long COVID was a thing. But it really shouldn't have been a surprise, because it turns
You're right,
out
they
that
are
it's not
emotes. You're
uncommon
right.
for viral illnesses to cause some unpleasant after effects. In the same way we have long COVID, some folks can also experience long-term flu effects.
Twitch
We
is
just
very upset
haven't
with
given
you
it
now.
as much attention, and many people don't know that long flu is a possibility. With COVID-19, we've seen a lot of people get seriously sick, and even more people get mildly or moderately sick. So, we're seeing a lot of cases of long COVID. And long COVID seems distinctly not fun.
Okay, so that's the end of a take. Distinctly not fun. Okay, great. Yes, please log in with your staff account. Maybe you can, what would that open up? I don't know. I really want to have custom emotes on Twitch, but then that would require me to be an affiliate. And if I'm an affiliate, then I can't stream on Twitch and on YouTube. I'd have to go straight to partner, which will take a while, I imagine. So until then, so any of you watching on YouTube right now, you're the reason. No, not an affiliate. No, decided to hold off because of that reason. Then my beautiful YouTube viewers wouldn't be able to watch on YouTube. They'd have to go to a totally separate platform. So, unfortunately. John, are you an affiliate? Okay, there we go. So let's see.
The CDC has a whole big webpage on post.
It's not about being better or worse. It's more about I have a platform on YouTube and I don't have one on Twitch, really. So I've watched a few of your streams, John. You need a better microphone, though. You should get on that.
COVID conditions, and describes all kinds of symptoms that can occur weeks and months after the virus has passed, including fatigue, difficulty breathing, headaches, chest, joint, and muscle pain, mood changes, dizziness, sleep problems, and the notorious brain fog, usually described as a difficulty concentrating or thinking. Some people may experience autoimmune issues affecting organs like the lungs, kidneys, and brain after recovery from the virus, which can lead to their own
So far, so
additional
good.
complications. And for people who were hospitalized with COVID, the experience of a long hospital stay and some of the interventions used, such as intubation, can cause weakness, difficulties with judgment and problem solving, and even PTSD. We're not really sure what's causing the symptoms of long COVID, especially because there's a lot of variety in the kinds of symptoms people can experience. I know that some people, especially those who experienced COVID very early on in the pandemic, have been told that their symptoms are simply psychosomatic, all in their head. Now,
Okay. Yeah, I think we ended up going back probably to here-ish.
we're not really sure what's
So let's see.
The CDC has a
No.
The CDC
No.
Some people may experience
What?
I know that some people, especially those who experienced COVID very early
Where did you start talking about the CDC?
difficulties, may be one back in April 2020. But it really in the same way with COVID-19, we've seen
Hey, Hayden Love, thanks for subscribing.
So, we're seeing a lot of cases of long COVID. And long COVID seems distinctly not fun.
Where did
The
it?
CDC has a
there we
whole
go.
big webpage on post-COVID conditions and describes all kinds of symptoms that can occur weeks and months after the virus has passed, including fatigue, difficulty breathing, headaches, chest, joint, and muscle pain, mood changes, dizziness, sleep problems, and the notorious brain fog, usually described as a difficulty concentrating or thinking. Some people may experience autoimmune issues affecting organs like the lungs, kidneys, and brain after recovery from the virus, which can lead to their own additional complications. And for people who were hospitalized with COVID, the experience of a long hospital stay and some of the interventions used, such as intubation, can cause weakness, difficulties with judgment and problem solving, and even PTSD. We're not really sure.
Okay, we're gonna cut there. All right. Oh yeah, you bet. John, it's always fun watching you.
And for people who were hospitalized with COVID,
I gotta play
the
Life is Strange
experience
at
of a
some
long
point.
hospital stay and some of the interventions used, such as intubation, can cause weakness, difficulties,
on,
and PTSD. We're not.
Oh, by the way, you want to see a cat? There's Bill. Here. Oh, here. Here's Bill. Say hi, Bill. What a star. Very chill. Chill Bill. Indeed. Oh, you were staring right at the camera, Bill. All right, you can go back to relaxing now. I just needed a little break. What a good cat. All right, so we cut after PTSD. Let's actually just delete that section then.
We're not really sure what's causing the symptoms of long COVID, especially because there's a lot of variety in the kinds of symptoms people can experience. I know that some people, especially those who experienced
cutie.
COVID very early on in the pandemic, have been told that their symptoms are simply psychosomatic, all in their head.
Bill,
Now,
there you go.
I want to emphasize that even if that were the case, psychosomatic illnesses are still real illnesses. Just because your pain or discomfort has a neurological or psychological cause rather than a physical one doesn't mean it isn't real, and it still requires treatment. But there are a lot of people researching the underpinnings of long COVID, as well as other similar
I have
long-term
a
diseases
custom
such as chronic
Bill
fatigue syndrome, to better
emote,
understand how viral
and
illnesses
I
such as
can't- I
COVID-19
can't
might be
use it
leading to these issues,
because
if
I'm
they do
not
at all. Now,
an
I'm not a
affiliate
doctor, nor
or
do I
partner.
study any of these diseases, but if I had to guess,
But it's there.
I'd bet there's
It's
some
waiting.
weird autoimmune stuff going on that we just haven't pinned down yet. Let me keep going.
Okay.
Autoimmune stuff going on that we just haven't pinned down yet.
Stop right before the blink, right there, ish. So she keeps going. Pick up there.
Now, personally, I think all of this stuff sounds
Oh,
pretty
you
scary.
guys can't even see what I'm doing.
I'm young and generally very healthy. I'm the kind of person who
there.
rarely ever gets sick. And I get my flu shot
You didn't
every
mind because you got to
single
see
year.
Bill.
I'm up to 3
I know.
doses of the
I
COVID
know, Rich.
vaccine. And I'm still keeping myself quarantined at home
Oh, no.
because I'm really hoping not to get COVID. At least not anytime
Hi.
soon. And you might look at me and hear these horrible symptoms and think, well, that sounds scary, but those are all things that only happen if you get really sick. Maybe you think I'm overreacting. After all, the people who get hit hardest by COVID are the people with other underlying health conditions, like heart problems or diabetes. And with the latest waves, it seems like the virus isn't as severe for
Okay, let's see if there's another take.
Now, personally, I think all of this stuff sounds pretty scary.
Is that where this take starts?
Now, personally, I think all of this stuff sounds pretty scary.
It's a little forceful. Let's see. I think there's another take as well. Let's see.
Lower among those who have gotten a booster dose of the vaccine.
No.
You might think,
Okay. Okay, we've got another comparison, okay?
right?
Another 2 takes. Nope. So I'm gonna need your advice in terms of which take to use, okay? So we've got take 1, which starts there, right there. We've got take 2 that starts here. I will tell you when take 2 begins. Ready?
Now, personally, I think all of this stuff sounds
This is
pretty
take
scary. I'm young and generally very healthy. I'm the kind of person who rarely ever gets sick, and I get my flu shot every single year. I'm up to 3 doses of the COVID vaccine, and I'm still keeping myself quarantined at home because I'm really hoping not to get COVID, at least not anytime soon. And you might look at me and hear these horrible symptoms and think, well, that sounds scary, but those are all things that only happen if you get really sick.
What?
Maybe you think I'm overreacting. After all, the people who get hit hardest by COVID are the people with other underlying health conditions, like heart problems or diabetes. And with the latest waves, it seems like the virus isn't as severe for most people. It's starting to feel more like a serious cold than a massive health threat, especially if you've been vaccinated. The rates of hospitalization are super low for people who have been vaccinated.
I hear you.
And even
Okay.
lower among those who have gotten a booster dose of the vaccine. You might think that you're at no risk of suffering any of these issues. If you catch COVID, you'll just have a sore throat for a week or 2, but whatever, right? Now, personally,
Okay, take
I
2.
think all of this stuff sounds pretty scary. I'm young and generally very healthy. I'm the kind of person who rarely ever gets sick, and I get my flu shot every single year. I'm up to 3 doses of the COVID vaccine, and I'm still keeping myself quarantined at home because I'm really hoping not to get COVID, at least not anytime soon. And you might look at me and hear these horrible symptoms and think, well, that sounds scary, but those are all things that only happen if you get really sick. Maybe you think I'm overreacting. After all, the people who get hit hardest by COVID are the people with other underlying health conditions, like heart problems or diabetes. And with the latest waves, it seems like the virus isn't as severe for most people. It's starting to feel more like a serious cold than a massive health threat, especially if you've been vaccinated. The rates of hospitalization are super low for people who have been vaccinated, and even lower among those who have gotten a booster dose of the vaccine. You might think that you're at no risk of suffering any of these issues. If you catch COVID, you'll just have a sore throat for a week or 2, but whatever, right? I hate to break.
Okay. So that's the end of take 2, more or less. Thoughts? Take 1 versus take 2? I'm kind of split, to be honest. A second for you? Yeah. I think 2. Okay. Hey, Tim. Good to see ya. I think I like 2 for the most part as well. The flow of tone for me sounds appealing in 2. Good to know. I think I like 2 for the most part. Yeah, I think I like 2 for the most part. All right, we're just gonna make it easy, and we're just gonna use 2. Decided. nonverbal ad-libs. What are you talking about, John? The nonverbal ad-libs? I don't know what that means, but I like it.
I hate to break it to you, but
Okay. Oh. Let's try this again. Here we go. Oh, I see what you're saying. Hand gestures.
lower among those who have gotten a booster dose of the vaccine. You might think that you're at no risk of suffering any of these issues. If you catch COVID, you'll just vaccine.
Okay, let's cut that part because I remember that.
And lower among those who have gotten a booster dose of the vaccine.
Okay, we're gonna cut that.
You might think that you're at no risk of suffering any of these issues. If you catch COVID, you'll just have a sore throat for a week or two, but whatever, right? I hate to break it to you, but it seems like some of these neurological issues can show up even if you've only experienced a mild case of COVID. A new study published in January of this year, 2022, found that in mice who were infected with
We're near the
SARS-CoV-2,
end.
even those who showed no symptoms still showed elevated levels of inflammatory molecules in their blood and brains. And those inflammatory molecules stuck around for weeks after the initial infection. Those same mice had activated microglia, the immune cells in the brain, which can lead to cascades of signaling that can damage and even kill other brain cells. What's more, the researchers saw a loss of brain cells that produce myelin, that white matter that's so important, remember? When they looked at the brains of patients who had died of things other than COVID, but who happened to be COVID positive at the time of their death, the scientists saw similar changes to the microglia. Those changes resembled the ones seen in patients undergoing chemotherapy, who often report feelings of brain fog known as chemobrain. Anecdote, you want me to do it again?
Okay.
Brain.
Pretty great section there. Okay. Sorry, I was getting a little bit caught up in editing. Just wanted to share that I had the dumbest thought ever. Our internet was out earlier, which derailed my plans to watch a movie. I was just sitting here watching the stream thinking, I wonder if our internet is working again so I could start the movie still. Your internet is working if you are watching this. Yes. Gosh, the societal ramifications of having 8 billion people on the planet. Endemic diseases are rare, I know, but the fact that COVID took the world by storm, there's a real conversation to be had. Absolutely. I have a friend who's still struggling with confusion and sensory deadening about a year after. I mean, it's wild, you know, just the effects that people are experiencing from COVID. It's still, I mean, yeah, there will be so many wide-ranging effects from this. You know, it's not a temporary thing, and we're not, I mean, beyond what we're talking about in the video in terms of neurological impacts that it potentially could have. I mean, there's a lot of brain changes that have happened and will continue to happen, I think, or that we'll continue to feel the effects of those for years and years. You know, like think about all the kids who didn't get their standard school year, you know, because they were out of school, or all the people who are struggling with mental health now just because of the situation. So, yep. It's more than just the virus.
If you catch COVID, you'll just have a sore throat for a week or two, but
By the way, sorry about your friend. Confusion, that sucks. That's like pretty intense. And sensory deadening, jeez.
whatever, right?
Okay, we already did this part, right?
You might think that you're at no risk. If you catch COVID, you'll just have a sore throat for a week or two, but whatever, right? I hate to who often use. If you catch COVID, you'll just have a sore throat for a week or two, but whatever, right?
Okay, we have another take. Let's listen.
If you catch COVID, you'll just have a sore throat for a week or two, but whatever, right? I hate to break it to you, but it seems like some of these neurological issues can show up even if you've only experienced a mild case of COVID. A new study published in January of this year, 2022, found that in mice who were infected with SARS-CoV-2, even those who showed no symptoms still showed elevated levels of inflammatory molecules in their blood and brains. And those inflammatory molecules stuck around for weeks after the initial infection. Those same mice had activated microglia, the immune cells in the brain, which can lead to cascades of signaling that can damage and even kill other brain cells. What's more, the researchers saw a loss of brain cells that produce myelin, that white matter that's so important, remember? When they looked at the brains of patients who had died of things other than COVID, but who happened to be COVID positive at the time of their death, the scientists saw similar changes to the microglia. Those changes resembled the ones seen in patients undergoing chemotherapy, who often report feelings of brain fog known as chemobrain. Anecdotally, changes resemble the ones seen in patients undergoing chemotherapy, who often report feelings of brain fog known as chemobrain.
Yeah, I like the second take a lot better, so I'm gonna delete this one, although we need the one line from here.
So the vaccine. You might think that you're at no risk of suffering any of these issues. If you catch COVID, you're at no risk of suffering any of these issues.
Oops, let's do that. Okay, great.
If you catch COVID, you'll just have a sore throat for a week or two, but whatever, right? Positive at the time of their death, who have experienced extremely mild or even feelings of brain fog known as chemobrain.
Okay, cut there. Now we're getting into a new section. It might all be one take, but let's find out.
Anecdotally, I've heard of people who have experienced extremely mild or even
Andrew.
asymptomatic.
Thanks for stopping by.
Oh, sorry, I didn't progress properly.
Okay, we can delete that part.
Anecdotally, I've heard of people who have experienced very mild COVID symptoms, maybe just a sore throat or a stuffy nose, who then experience brain fog for weeks after recovering from the virus. Another study found that almost 70% of people who experienced only mild or moderate COVID symptoms were still experiencing at least one symptom a month later. So it really does seem like regardless of how severe your original experience is with the virus, those post-viral symptoms can still hit hard, and they can last a long time.
Yeah.
We don't fully understand the mechanisms underlying all of these issues, and honestly, it could be years or decades or even longer before we do. I mean, we're still learning new things about influenza, which has been causing epidemics for hundreds of years. So I don't expect we'll uncover all of the secrets of COVID-19 anytime soon. And unfortunately, all of the secrets of COVID-19 anytime soon.
Okay, we have another take of this.
Totally. I've heard of...
Let's listen. Let's see how the second take is, okay?
Anecdotally, I've heard of people who have experienced very mild COVID symptoms, maybe just a sore throat or a stuffy nose, who then experience brain fog for weeks after recovering from the virus. Another study found that almost 70% of people who experienced only mild or moderate COVID symptoms were still experiencing at least one symptom a month later. So it really does seem like, regardless of how severe your original experience is with the virus, those post-viral symptoms can still hit hard, and they can last for a long time. We don't fully understand the mechanisms underlying all of these issues, and honestly, it could be years or decades or even longer before we do. I mean, we're still learning new things about influenza, which has been causing epidemics for hundreds of years. So I don't expect we'll uncover all of the secrets of COVID-19 anytime soon.
I think I like the take from the first take, personally.
And unfortunately, it's really starting to look like COVID is here to stay.
I know. He likes
More and
hanging
more
out.
scientists and public health
Like sitting on
experts
my
are
lap.
saying that COVID-19 will likely become endemic, meaning that we can expect to experience it in ebbs and flows
cat.
for years to come, similar to the flu. My hope is that, with time, the virus will continue to mutate the same way that other viruses do, becoming less deadly and causing less severe illness, though that may come at the cost of becoming even more contagious. Honestly, even after 2 years, the thought of getting sick still really scares me. Honestly,
Cut there. Does she do this again?
because some
No. Right there.
Honestly, even after 2 years, the thought of getting sick still really scares me. Micah and I have generally been very careful about COVID for the last 2 years. We've missed out on weddings and birthdays, spent holidays separated from family, and spent weeks upon weeks just sitting at home with just the two of us and our cats. Thank goodness for video games, right?
Like that.
I think a lot of people have just accepted the inevitability of getting COVID at some point. And with mask mandates evaporating and vaccination rates stagnating and the US government pushing for ever more normalcy for the sake of the economy, it really does feel like the walls are closing in. But knowing everything I know about the effects of COVID on the brain and body, and especially the potential for those lingering long-term effects, I'd really rather not get sick at all if I can possibly avoid it. So I'm still wearing a mask whenever I go out, an N95 these days, despite how expensive they are and how hard to find they are. I'm talking to my doctor about my risk factors and figuring out what is and isn't safe. If they offer me another booster vaccine, I am already rolling up my sleeve. Keep going.
Yep, doing
My
good.
sleeve.
Right before that blink. Boom.
Because some people will get through COVID with just
Okay.
Because some people will get through COVID with just a few days of the sniffles and end up totally fine. But
Absolutely,
millions
John.
of people have
We'll get
died
there.
of this virus, and many more are left to
Someday.
deal with the long-term effects of an infection. And on top of that, I'm not gonna lie, it's a huge bummer to be someone who's at high risk seeing the whole world go back to normal. It might feel like no big deal to get sick if you're young and healthy and vaccinated, but it's easy for someone to accidentally pass the virus on to someone who is much more vulnerable than they are. And the effects of COVID could have much more severe consequences for me than for another person my age. And that's not even getting into the ways in which the overloaded healthcare system is struggling to support all of its patients, COVID and non-COVID alike, because community transmission rates are so ridiculously high right now. So I hope that if you're still watching this, you're still behaving responsibly when it comes to navigating COVID-19 precautions. Wear a mask when you're in public indoor spaces, especially when you're around large groups. Maybe hold off on that happy hour for another couple weeks until COVID rates really start dropping down. And if it's available to you and you haven't already, please get vaccinated and boosted. Even if you think it's not a big deal for you, it is to me and to others who are at high risk of severe illness. So if you need a good excuse, Do it for me. How about you?
Hi. Hi. What? What you want? Funny cat.
Do it for me.
Um,
So how about you? So how about you? You're watching this video, so have you had COVID-19? I'd be curious to hear if you're experiencing symptoms even after the virus has passed. Tell us about your experience in the comments below, and I'll heart your stories so other folks can see them. Thanks for watching this episode of Neurotransmissions. Until our next transmission, I'm Allie Astrocyte. Over and out.
Cool! Yay! End of the video! And then she pets the cat. How much of petting the cat should we leave in? Because there's a lot of it, right? I actually was thinking, I think I took video. Oh yeah, I did. I ended up zooming in. There you go. You can get extra cat footage. Hang on, let's get him. He's got his eyes closed there. Does he close his eyes here? Yeah, right there. No. They're kind of closed there. Maybe there. How much cat petting? Leave as much cat time as you can possibly justify. I can justify a lot, personally. Not enough cat time? More cat time? Okay. I give the people what they want. Although she lays down there so you don't really see the cat. So we'll need that. Okay, there's that. And then that should lead into... Hang on. I want to match up the hand right there. Boom. Yeah, that matches up pretty well. That's a lot of cat time. I mean, we're getting like 2 minutes worth of cat time here. You do deserve it. This is true. Actually, maybe I should put like a caption in here that says like, much deserved COVID cat footage. What are you doing, Allie? Don't do that. Too much. Okay. The end. Oh, you're checking his teeth. Allie, what do you think about leaving, let's see, how much time this is exactly. We got, right, 1921 to 2008. So we're, I guess it's not that long actually. That's about a minute worth of cat time. How do you feel about a minute of cat time at the end of the video? Personally, I have absolutely no problem with it. Whatever. Give the people what they want. The people want cat time. So I feel like that's what we should do. Let me just adjust the colors so that they match up. More cat. Clearly what they want is cat. I agree. Cat time for everybody. Let me just write something here. A much needed. Is much needed hyphenated? I don't know. I assume that's Christian Christian, thanks for subscribing. Appreciate it, bud. Enjoy your lunch, John. Looking forward to having you back. No hard feelings. If I had to choose between watching a video of me and watching a video of a cat, I'd pick the cat too. Next video, cats discuss the brain. Oh man. Now, John, you're unlocking a Pandora's box. Do we invest in tracking software so that we can add mouths to the cats and have the cats present an entire video? That would be silly. It would be like that talking orange that was popular for a hot second. Okay, so video rough cut. All done, the rough cut. There's more to do, a lot more to do, frankly. Like this beginning scene, she's watching a video, we gotta put in the video, we gotta put in all these overlays, all that good stuff. I'll probably put in some B-roll, put in is that a rhetorical question about the cats presenting a video? I get the impression Tim wants the cats presenting. How hard would that be? That would be really hard. Working with animals is hard, frankly. Let's just put it that way. So we gotta put in some overlays. I'll probably put in some news footage to supplement. Just because that can kind of spice things up. We've been doing a little bit of that recently, and I like how it helps the videos flow a little bit. And especially with something like COVID, since it is so topical and there's a lot of footage out there, it'll be really easy to find stuff that can be incorporated. We've also gotta, right now it's all the same distance, so at some point we gotta, change this up so that, right, for example, Allie is, you get a nice close-up of Allie, like that.
I'm one of those people who is at high...
That kind of thing, right? So we'll do that at some point. We gotta do background music, that's not urgent, we'll do that near the end. We gotta do... What else we gotta do? I'm trying to think if there's anything... I don't think this will be a super effect-heavy video, which is good. That should make it fairly easy. We need to do our ad spot, yes. Good point. So we'll have to record that. Let's see, what else? What else do we have on here? I think that's mostly it. So lots of work still, but in terms of getting things mostly cut down, we've done that. Right now, video is timing out to 20 minutes and 8 seconds, which is good. That's a reasonable length. And once we add in a little bit of news footage and this beginning part, I would guess it'll probably end up being 23 to 25 minutes total. Because we'll probably cut things down a little bit too. We have a lot of long takes, and I might end up cutting at strategic points to make things flow a little bit, or for emphasis or something like that. So that is the plan. Yeah. I'm not gonna work more on this video right now because this is kind of what I wanted to accomplish tonight. So I feel like this is a decent ending spot. But I'll tell you what, I'll give you one more little moment with Bill, and then we'll call it. So sound good? All right. Hi. Say hi, everybody. All right. Bill says hello and goodbye. I hope that you all have a great night. Oh, I guess I should say this just for the heck of it. If you're watching over on YouTube right now and you want to see stuff other than when I'm just editing videos for the channel, every once in a while I'll stream myself playing video games or just like chatting, stuff like that. And you can find me typing it into the chat. You can find me there. If you want to follow me over there, then you will find me over there. And when I stream, if you follow me, then you should get notifications for when I start streaming and stuff. So if you only like watching the editing videos, then you don't need to follow me over there. But if it's your preferred platform, or if it's something that if you want to see other kinds of content, then feel free to catch me over there. Wait. What am I missing? I worked for almost 2 years on 26 minutes. Okay. There's a big difference between music editing though and video editing. We're fast and dirty here. Your music is very well produced, so I don't think there's a comparison there. Thanks, Tim, for subbing. Appreciate that. So anyway, we'll pick up. I'll probably do another stream sometime this week, or maybe even this weekend, and then over the week, because it helps to keep me on track. And then this video will come out on the 16th. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate you all watching. And Bill, why don't you look over here? Look over here. Look, the people want to see you. No, he's not good. See, this is why we can't do videos hosted by the cats. So anyway, all right, have a good night. See you guys. Bye.